All right, welcome to another Quest-i-on. This was the artist Guster with the songs Come Downstairs and Say Hello, and then 2 points for honesty. So let's take a look here and see what we see. So the first song, Come Downstairs and Say Hello. So even the title, Come Downstairs and Say Hello, I see this as like, where when you are seeking connection with the divine, so we're inviting the divine to come downstairs and say hello. We are opening up ourselves in order to be able to receive that. And, whether you call it meditation or however you want to illustrate that, it's all the same. Many ways to get there. Well, really, there's only one way, but there are many different flavors of what works for you to allow that divine influence to flow in and move through you. But that's what the song is saying from my perspective. So Dorothy moves to click her ruby shoes, right in tune with Dark Side of the Moon. So the ruby shoes, the red, the heel, the hell, the ruby shoes being the in the Wizard of Oz, there's no place like home. So that's her becoming rooted so that she can return to her true self. So that movie, that story is very much the journey through the chakras to the Emerald City, the heart, the center. And it says right in tune with Dark Side of the Moon, because if you don't know this, if you play Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album, and you start it right as, I believe it's when the second lion roar of MGM, then the album plays in sync with the movie. So obviously not the whole movie because the album's not as long as the movie, but the scenes that show up are very much in sync with the album itself. So just sort of a nod to that, and then a nod to the truth illustrated within that album and Pink Floyd in general. So it's all just giving hints that there is a higher meaning to the lyrics therein. So going back to the lyrics, someone could tell me where I belong, be calm, be brave, it'll be okay. So, that's the peace that passes all understanding, that allowance of that divine influence to flow into us. So the divine can tell me where I belong, be calm, be brave, it'll be okay. And then it continues, no more messing around and living underground. So hiding away from this divine influence in our fall on New Year's resolutions. So always sort of the empty promises we make to ourselves to refine that connection and to be better. So no more messing around on New Year's resolutions. By this time next year, I won't be here. So that commitment to the continually evolving, changing. If you're stagnant, then you're missing out. Essentially, it's not to punish you if you don't do that, but you're missing out on the most glorious, amazing experience possible, this life. So by this time next year, I won't be here because I will be shifting. I turn on MTV, the volume's down, lips move, they say it'll be okay. So MTV, maybe it's alluding to the M as in the mother, the 13, that connection. So MTV, the volume's down as in it's in the stillness and the silence. The lips move and they say it'll be okay. So again, the divine moving us or inspiring us with that peace. To tell you the truth, I've said it before, tomorrow I start in a new direction. One last time, these words for me, I'm never saying them again. So that commitment to the growth, to the path, this could be at a rock bottom moment at the bottom of that U and shifting trajectory. Tomorrow I start in a new direction. So it's coming back up again. So we invite the divine to come in and allow it, and that shifts us into a new direction. That's the creative process. And, we, of course, as part of that process, there's the fall again. So we'll drift away to some degree. It doesn't have to be severe. It doesn't have to be intense, though it can be, if we let it. So the refining of that process is to commit to that and say, okay, every time I sense that I'm falling or shifting away, then gently come back. So one last time, these words for me, I'm never saying them again. Making that commitment. And I shut the light and listen as my watch unwinds. So shut the light as in close the physical senses, go within and listen as my watch unwinds. So Chronos, the crown, Saturn, father time, it begins to unwind. And that's the purpose of that device, time, is to learn how to step outside of it. So while we are bound in the fallen state, then time is very important and impactful. But the point is to remember that you're outside of that. You're outside of the time construct. So listen as my watch unwinds. To tell you the truth, I've said it before. Tomorrow I start in a new direction. I know I've been half asleep. I'm never doing that again. So again, the sleepy fallen state. I look straight at what's coming ahead, the straight and narrow, and soon it's going to change in a new direction. So being content with the ever-changing, ever-evolving experience. Change is the only constant. Every night as I'm falling asleep, these words repeated in my head. So every time we go to sleep, every time we meditate, every time we get still and center ourselves, voices calling from a yellow road to come downstairs and say hello. So again, alluding to the Wizard of Oz and the yellow brick road. So that road was the road that led her from the ruby slippers, with the ruby slippers on the yellow road, to the green. So moving from the lower to the higher, to the heart, the Emerald City. But the voice is calling from a yellow road. So that's us in a, locked in second chakra, the sacral, well, I guess that would be the solar plexus, which is our belly button. So that's like the point of physicality where we came into this realm. So voice is calling from a yellow road to come downstairs and say hello. So us calling out to the divine, saying, don't be shy, just say hello. Because it's immaterial and indescribable, and from a physical sense is not even real. But that's the knowing is like, it's beyond physical, and we are beyond physical. We have the physical experience, but we are beyond that. So don't be shy, just say hello. To tell you the truth, I've said it before. Tomorrow I start in a new direction. I know I've been half asleep. I'm never doing that again. I look straight at what's coming ahead, and soon it's going to change in a new direction. Every time as I'm falling asleep, these words repeated in my head. So yeah, that's that song, Come Downstairs and Say Hello by Guster. And then the next one, 2 points for honesty. If that's all you will be, you'll be a waste of time. You've dreamed 1,000 dreams. None seem to stick in your mind. 2 points for honesty. It must make you sad to know that nobody cares at all. So what's being said here? So this is, from my perspective, being spoken from the divine, from Christ. If that's all you will be, you'll be a waste of time. So if you're going to lower yourself to that, it is sort of a waste of the experience. And that's the only, downside of not taking full, for lack of a better term, advantage of this experience. Like we created this to be in and learn through and experience. And so if we're not in it fully, if we're just half-assed playing the game, then you'll be a waste of time. You've dreamed 1,000 dreams. You've lived 1,000 lifetimes, infinite lifetimes, but none seem to stick in your mind. You're in this forgetful state and you're staying there. So 2 points for honesty, as in like, I see it as like, I'm glad that you can hear this the divine saying to us, I'm glad that you're able to receive this message, which is challenging. But then it said, it must make you sad to know that nobody cares at all. So what's being said there, from my perspective, is saying that, you know, this whole identity, this ego, this thing that we take so seriously, and this persona that we have to take so seriously, and oh, what if I lose that? You know, what if that evaporates, or if I, and that's to a degree, it's necessary in order for us to hold on to this experience and be this character. But at the same time, it's very debilitating for us to be overly attached to the character. So it must make you sad to know that nobody cares at all about preserving the persona in that way. So it's like, it's all nonsensical in just the purest sense, from that Alan Watts video I've quoted and shared before. It's all nonsense, but not in a bad way, as if we disregard it or fall into apathy. The meaning of life is to find meaning in life. So it's not inherently meaningful. It's for us to assign meaning to it. But if we're living based on the perspectives of others, you know, it's a common thing, like thinking that everyone's paying attention to us, or worried about us, or criticizing us, or whatever. So then learning that, it must make you sad to know that nobody cares at all. It's sad at first, but then it's freeing. And that's really the only way to freedom, is to let go of that. I want to be where I've never been before. I want to be there, and then I'd understand. So taking that leap of faith, stepping off into the unknown. I want to be where I've never been before. I want to be there, and then I'd understand. So know I'm right and do it right. Could I get to be like that? So to know I'm right and do it right, that's the Christ. That's the sort of perfect form of this. That's the highest elevation that we can reach. And we all reach it at times, and we embody it at times. But can you maintain it? Can you stay there? Can you stay there in this ever-changing experience? You know, can you be the Christ constant in this ever-fluid experience? That's the challenge. I don't know, but I don't know, with nothing more to gain. So maybe throwing hands up at that. Will I get better or stay the same? I find I always move too slowly. So the sort of frustration, or being hard on ourselves for knowing this perfect image, the Christ to embody. And you are that. You're not separate from that. You are that. Yet through the veil of forgetfulness, we forget that we are that. And so then we wonder, will I get better or stay the same? This sort of seemingly isolated representation of the Christ that seems to have forgotten who I am. So I find I always move too slowly, can't lift a finger, can't change my mind. The stubbornness, the attachment leads to immobilization, leads to complacency. I never knew till someone told me that. And then it repeats, if that's all you will be, you'll be a waste of time. So this revelation moment, you've dreamed 1,000 dreams, none seem to stick in your mind. 2 points for honesty must make you sad to know that nobody cares at all. So again, that sort of harsh truth of letting go of attachment to the persona, the character. And all the people who've seen it all before, and all the people who really understand. So the ones who've come before and have followed this path in this way and have gotten to that space of seeing it all. And all the people who really understand, know they're right and have done it right. Could I get to be like that? Again, striving for that example. I don't know what I don't know. It's harder every day. It is challenging. It's the most challenging thing we've ever done. Can't lift a finger, can't hurt a fly. So not advocating to hurt anything, but just saying, as in, if we're too timid to move, creation rewards courage. Creation rewards courage. Courage is like one of the most valuable things within this experience. The more courage we have, the more we're signaling to the divine that we're capable of holding power to create. So if you want more power to create, you have to be courageous. So being in the state of can't lift a finger, too timid to move because I might hurt a fly. Again, not advocating hurting any sentient beings, but you get the message here. It's like it's scared into this immobile state. I found I always move too slowly, especially in that state. One thing's for certain, I'm insecure. So this self-loathing, this satanic spell that we've adopted of inherent sin and that we're worthless and we're either just worthless sinners from a religious standpoint or from a scientific perspective. We are evolved pawn scum, worthless, meaningless, happenstance. So all of those spells lead us to insecurity. And so it's to break free from that. So one thing's for certain, I'm insecure. So having that 2 points for honesty of acknowledging this space. I never knew till someone told me that. If that's all you'll be a waste of time. You dreamed 1,000 dreams, none seem to stick in your mind. 2 points for honesty. It must make you sad to know that nobody cares at all. Nobody cares at all. They never care at all. So stop living based on other people's perspectives. Stop living based on how others feel. Step into you, because it's all you anyway. So yeah, so that's Guster again, and thanks for listening and welcome again to the show. Excited to be back. Excited to be back here. Had a little shift last week, as some of you are probably aware of, but I flew into Albuquerque, took a one-way flight to meet up with Lila and Elliot, and we took the rest of the journey from out west to New York State. So we are now here. Lila's just getting settled in, but we've made the trip safely, and it's wonderful. So thank you to everyone for your prayers and support and all the good things for that venture. But we have landed safely without too much stress, and it's been good to be here. And so yeah, that's what I was doing last week. I had a little short impromptu show just to touch base and give everyone an update there. But happy to be back and getting back into the more structured show of Quest-i-on, the quest to illuminate the single I, the Quest-i-on, the quest I am on. And this is the state that we show up, and the more that we can hold this state of being in a quest, a quest for discovery of self, the more we align with the energy of creation itself and consciousness itself. That's the whole thing was us asking a question. Who am I? What is this? How can I experience myself to learn more? And that began the process of creating this whole experience that we find ourselves. But it was all you. You did it. So the more that we can align with that quest-like state and come asking questions, or just with a willingness to and an openness to learn and to share, then we're shifting our own vibratory state so that everywhere that we walk in life, we're in that open state. We're in that state of surrender where our cup is pointed upwards and it's open to receive that divine influence, so that when we do say, come downstairs and say hello to the divine, our cup is facing the right direction in order to receive it. And then it's just constantly being filled. And then our cup flows over so that we can pour and give to others who might not have learned how to hold their cup upright. We can help them get a drink and say, hey, let me help you. How can I help? So that's what the idea behind this show series is. And we've been doing it for quite some time now. And I love having opportunities to talk on any wide array of topics. There's really nothing that's off limits. So if at any point you find yourself curious or have input, and it doesn't have to be a question. Questions are wonderful and they give us great topics, but It can be a share or an experience you've had, a revelation you've come across, a challenge you're experiencing, a challenge you've overcome. Either which way, the more that we can share and compare notes in our experience, the more we realize that we're all the same. We chose different flavors, and the different flavors are wonderful. So don't get me wrong there, but it's all ultimately the same formula. So the more that we can share and compare, well, I say that because it's not good to compare too much. It's like everything's a balance, right? So not to compare, to put myself down that somebody's doing better than, or put myself above because somebody's doing worse than. In my mind, those are all judgments. But just to have the opportunity to learn from our collective experience so that what we go through isn't isolated. And the more that we spread that, then the ripple effect of these lessons that we're learning and the things that we go through become compounded and more influential and more powerful, so that the shift collectively becomes even faster and more pronounced. So that's what this show represents. So yeah, again, if at any time you find yourself inspired and want to share anything, ask anything, just feel free to hit that center button on your screen, and that will open up your mic. And then we can call on you whenever there's an opportune moment. And if your mic is already open, just find a quiet space and feel free to jump in. There's no, it's not a rush to speak. There's always ample opportunity. If you do have a hard time finding that quiet moment, just feel free to toggle your mic on and off just by hitting that same button, and that'll signal to me. I'll do my best to see that. I don't always do, but I'll do my best to see that and call on you to give you a chance to speak. So yeah, just to start off with some announcements before we jump into it. So just a reminder that I am 100% donation supported to do all that I do. So thank you to everyone who has helped chip in over the years to make this possible, so that I can devote my full attention to producing content and getting the message out and helping those who need help. And yeah, so thank you for your consideration there. You can go to my website, justincarpenter.org/contribute, and you can find all my donation links. And on top of just taking care of myself, there are other needs that I am helping to continue to support. And one of the main ones is continuing to help out with Bali and the orphans, the children of Uganda, or the Lions of Uganda, over in Uganda. And they have pretty consistent needs, and he's always asking if there are better ways that we can help to spread the message or get more word out. And I assure Bali every time, I'm doing my best to get the word out to those whom I'm connected with, but my reach is not infinite. It's and I'm okay with that, but it just is what it is. So if you are able to help with that, and you want any funds that go to me to go to Bali, I do send him some anyway, but if you want some specifically to go to him and the children, please just specify that. Or you can go specifically to their Gifts and Go. That's giftsandgo.com/Lions of Uganda. So you can find that information there. So thank you to all who have helped with that. And yeah, we just keep doing our best with what we can, and just to really appreciate all the support and sharing the message too. Sharing, if you hear of anybody that would be willing to help sponsor an orphanage in Uganda, that is wonderful. I've asked Bali to continue networking and finding others, but we haven't had such luck yet. So we'll just keep doing our best. But if you hear of anybody or are involved with any communities, church communities, or people who are willing to help out with something like that, please let me know. That would be very appreciated. And yeah, I think that's it as far as announcements. So I can just go ahead and jump into, if anyone has anything they want to start us off with, feel free to jump in. But I was just gonna, if there's no one, I will just go off of these sort of current events and what's been happening, because it is quite exciting times. I know many would appreciate things to move a little bit faster and we could see some bigger fireworks, but I am every day when I peruse through things and see what's going on, it makes more and more sense why it's happening this way and why it needed to go down this way. And it is shifting people. And Trump is just playing a masterful character that's, on 1 second pissing you off and on the other speaking exactly what you want him to hear. And depending on where you are and where you're coming from, you get different perspectives, different ways. So it's masterful. So the one that's come up recently that the quote unquote truth community has been in an uproar about, and so many people are turning on Trump, saying that he's a traitor and all these different things, with the Epstein thing, it's like, it's very, I don't mean to laugh, to downplay the feelings that people might have over that, but I just want to remind everyone to enjoy the show. You do not take the things that come out of Trump's mouth, or really anyone on the big public stage, don't take it literally. There are people who don't know what's going on, and so they're just going based on what they think is happening. But Trump is very much in the in crowd, and so everything he does is scripted. It's intentional. So this whole thing with him denying or calling the Epstein files a hoax, or all of that is meant to trigger people, so that now you have this whole energy of people thinking Trump is a bad guy. He's using that perspective, that opinion that people have, and the doubt that people still might have about it. He's using that to drive people into looking into the Epstein thing even more. Because the more people that are aware of these kind of things, the easier the big truth, when it comes out, is going to be to swallow. That pill is going to be much easier to swallow. So he's doing a phenomenal job at driving that energy forward and using this sort of like a reverse psychology to drive more people into that topic and to learn more about it. And even if they hate Trump every step of the way, it's working. So just remember that, and remember that this is all for a purpose. It's all for the show, and it's all for the ultimate goal, objective of getting as many people over that line of skepticism of, or mistrust of the system, of Babylon, of the Matrix. Getting people to pull that feeding tube out. As I've talked about the example with the Matrix, to get people to that state where they're willingly disconnecting from the false construct. That's the purpose, and it's working. So even if people have to hate Trump through that process, it doesn't matter, because everyone that gets over that threshold, over that line, I'm sure they have statistics. They've been doing their simulations with the data that they have. They have so much information on us. They know very accurately how people will respond to various catalysts, various things that come up. So the more people that make it over that threshold, the less deaths we'll have, the less just chaos and madness that we'll have when the truth finally comes out. Because all those people who've made it over that threshold, they'll be like, oh God, wow. Yeah, I knew something was off. This seemed really fucked up. And whether they forgive Trump after the fact, it doesn't really matter. I hope they will. I really do. I hope they will remember. I hope they will realize why it had to be done this way. But that's not as important. What is important right now is getting people over that threshold. So that's what they're doing, and it's amazing to witness. It truly is. And just the ways that, the conversations around Israel, and now Israel is attacking Syria. And so it's further destroying that inherent, just blind faith in the state of Israel. So that's working all around. People are eroding that, saving Israel for last. And then we've still got the potential for World War III to kind of kick it into another gear. That's still chumming around. So it's all coming along. But again, I'm not tied to any timeline, because this might take longer. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful that it will happen this year, but if it doesn't, I'm also very trusting of why that hasn't happened, because it's not just about the white hats choosing a time. They're waiting for that threshold to be reached. So they're doing everything that they can to try and get people over that mark. So we'll see how long it takes or what happens next, but it is exciting to witness, and we'll see, I mean, the talks around the Fed, like the Federal Reserve are great. So people are starting to erode their trust in the Federal Reserve and what's happening there, and question why does this organization even exist? Like, learning about the Federal Reserve, oh, it's not actually a government institution, it's just a corporation, so it's just a bank. All of that, it's all very helpful. So yeah, just wanted to reflect on these little tidbits that I'm hearing there, here and there. Just to remind everyone, I've mentioned before, but my ways that I keep up with current events, I don't make a long thing out of it, because it's just, once you get the gist of what's happening, it's like, okay, well, this is where the script is taking us. But just to get that gist, I do follow the channel disclose.tv, which is great for just news headlines, no opinions, just here's what's going on, at least on the surface level of what's happening. So that's great. On Telegram, I follow. They're also on Twitter and whatnot. And then I listen to just most of the press conferences that Trump or Caroline Leavitt does. So I didn't get a chance to finish the one from today. She just finished one not too long ago, but I'll listen to those usually while I'm doing something else, or while I'm chopping stuff up or whatever. I'll put that on, and I like to listen to those things, most things, on 2x speed, just to get to the interesting bits without listening to all of it super slowly. But that's my routine. That's the level of involvement that I have with paying attention to what's going on. I'm very satisfied with that amount. And so just offering that as an option if anyone else wants to follow that, because I do see some people get a little bit too consumed with it, and then they get upset about it, and which is, we're all dealing with different levels of that. But just to leave it at that has been a very healthy level for me. So yeah, that's sort of it. Update on current events and stuff, but I'll pass it off and see if anybody else wants to jump in, either on anything I've mentioned or ask a question, lead us in a new direction. You are more than welcome. All right. Well, let's see here. I've got a few offline questions I can get into. Yeah, so this is a good topic that I wanted to discuss. And this is related to my human design, and specifically to my cross of rulership, which is my incarnation cross. So I wanted to mention this because there have been quite a few experiences in my life, but especially in the last few years around this. And I see so for those who aren't aware, the incarnation cross in your human design is kind of like what you incarnated to do. So it's like your soul is driven to whatever your incarnation cross is, whether you, from your perspective, whether you like it or not, because from your high perspective, that's what you chose. And so even if you forgot or don't want to have chosen that, from this perspective, that is what you chose. So the more that we can get aligned with that and work with it, the more fluid we can be in the ways we can move through that. So with mine, the writing across of rulership, it has to do kind of as the name implies, but not necessarily from like there's like negative connotations to rulers, especially in our communities, because we're shifting away from like, overt domination, subjugation, and all of that. So it doesn't isolate into that particular form of it. That's sort of a negative, inverted sense of what a ruler can be. But through anything, there's always going to be leaders. There's always in any project or any way that things symbiotically come together, things do so much better when there is a point. There's a spear point. There's a central, not piece of authority, but just like whether it's a communication point or somebody to take point on a particular task or thing. If you have ambivalence in that area, at least in my experience, projects and things don't go that well. When someone is committed to say, I will take point on this particular thing or item or community or whatever, things can work a lot smoother because you have that one individual sort of taking responsibility for it. Now, where we've gone wrong is giving authority blindly to any figure that steps into that role. And so if we don't give blind authority, and if all of these positions are held there in high regard based on merit and based on, just the ability for that to happen, then that's how conscious leadership can happen. That's how you can have, you can organize in ways and have someone take point, or a family head take point and say, okay, we're going to do this in this way. And if we don't agree with that, then that's where we come together and figure out the best ways to come to that space of agreement, or move away, or however that needs to work. So anyway, coming back to my incarnation cross with the writing across of rulership, I just want to mention it because there has been a lot of, I feel a lot of alignment within that space, within that incarnation cross. I feel I'm moving in that way, and I want to be that benevolent, caring, attentive leader. Not in spaces where that's not received. That's part of my type as a projector. I have to be invited to that. But where I am invited, I want to step into that role, and I want to help because I want to help. I want to help as many as are willing to be helped, that I can help. So it shows up in a lot of beautiful ways in how this channel was formed, and how I work with other people, and that's wonderful. It really is wonderful, and I'm very grateful for that experience. But some issues or some hiccups where that can present itself, and I don't know if I'll ever get past this happening. I think it's sort of just a natural part of it. But where it sometimes shows up is apprehension of others to sort of question or even disagree with the things that I say. Right? So I have a lot of energy directed towards conviction and strength and being that it's just naturally who I am. And so that can come across as kind of like this intimidating presence, this sort of distant, or even like the pedestal effect has happened many times. And so I am consistent in saying, please do not put me on a pedestal. I'm not here to be better than, or say that I know more than, or any of that. We're all here to bring our specific pieces to the table and operate in that way. But this sort of intimidating effect that can happen has led to resentments in the past, where people are unwilling to actually say what they think or how they're feeling or anything they disagree with. And then it comes out in a much more violent way later on, where these resentments just build and build and build. So all I'm saying this for is to just give another, and this will be something that I imagine I'll need to continue talking about throughout my life, but just to continue reiterating that I want to be approached especially if you disagree. Of course, if we've talked about the disagreement, then that's one thing, it's there, but I'd much rather it be spoken, it be there, because that allows that sort of, it helps to dispel any potential resentment that might be built. So as much as I'm able to, I want to continue conveying the openness, the reception for that kind of thing, And and on that note, I also want to say that if we disagree, it's okay. It's okay if we disagree. It's okay if we have things where we differ on. You know, I do stand strong in my conviction and things that I'm very passionate about, but I don't ever do it in a way to like say that you're wrong for your conviction or how you want to stand. I'm very okay with agreeing to disagree respectfully, but sometimes that's not communicated, and sometimes that yeah, like I said, can lead to resentments that eventually build into much more strong reactions later on. And I'm like caught by surprise. I'm like, whoa, where did all these feelings come from? How did we get here? How did it get to this space to where you're suddenly angry about something? You know, and then it's even harder to identify where it started. So I'm just voicing it because I've noticed a pattern, and I just want to say that please feel free to come to me at any point, no matter what, and I will always give you respect. I have no issue with disagreements or any of that, as long as respect is shared. You know, and if we disagree on how things, you know, are working, or if we have that, then just please offer me the same respect of having my perspective as you have yours, and then we can move forward that way. But yeah, like I said, I'll probably have to continue speaking about this because it does seem to be an effect where I seem like larger than life or above reproach or any of that. But I just want to reiterate that like I'm with you. You know, I'm learning. I still have my moments. I still have things that I can do better. I still, and I'm actually quite grateful for criticism that has value of things that I can actually do something with. If I can do better, I'd love to hear about it so that I can do better. But all that requires the honest sharing and the willingness to step forward in that, and the courage to do it. I recognize that I don't like being intimidating, but I just recognize that I am. And it's kind of a lonely feeling. It's a very lonely feeling at times to feel that just because of how I am can lead people to be afraid or unwilling to speak about something that they really feel truly about. So part of my practice is just to always to be doing my best to kind of dispel that as best as I can, but also be okay with the fact that that's just fundamentally who I am. So I have to work with that, and you know, I get it if I'm not everyone's cup of tea either. Like if that doesn't vibe or doesn't sync with you, then I trust that. And there have been many experiences and many many moments within the past few years where that's shown itself, and I trust the flow, and I trust the shifting, and I trust how it moves. But I just want to be doing my best to convey that. And if there's any opportunity for me to speak further on that, if anyone has or just wants to talk in that, if you find these feelings and you want to speak to them, I'm always willing. So yeah, just wanted to mention that as a topic to discuss today, just as I'm continuing to learn about my human design and how I show up. So I will just offer that one, and thank you for listening. And I'll just pass it off and see if anyone else wants to jump in on anything we've discussed or take us in a new direction.
Hey, it's me, Lila.
Hey, Lila.
Hi, I really appreciated these comments that you've made. And yeah, I wanted to say a little bit about it. I have some friends that have that incarnation cross, and I also, um, the two people that I was just staying with in Albuquerque, which are my son's godparents, they both have the cross of rulership. And so I've known them I've known one of them since I was like 9, so a really long time. Yeah, and I love the cross of rulership. And I know that it can be really challenging at times for those that are around them. And to be the cross of rulership. So I really appreciate your vulnerability, speaking to like the loneliness within it. Much like a prince or a king or something might feel that way. There's this like reality, you know, of what you're born into, and for anybody who's interested in human design, that what I've seen at least is that the incarnation crosses are like that for every person, or juxtaposition, because it's not always a cross, it's sometimes a juxtaposition. But this reality of, you know, it is kind of a bit of like a cross to bear in a way, especially if you're uh, a martyr, you know, or meaning a three, having the profile line of three as your archetype. So then it's doubly so. But it can be really tricky. And having these friends of mine for so long, and now being friends with Justin for a while now, I see them working with that and working with this reality of right now. Especially, we've had so much corruption with the cabal and, you know, all of these dark entities using, and not even just using, but literally systematically taking over the positions of power so that they could, you know, exist in this dark realm and do the things that they've done to their benefit. And so therefore giving, you know, ruler, quote unquote, a bad name. But it is true that at this point in time, I do think that there's a need for the energies that are here to do that. I mean, obviously, God wouldn't have you here, right? And you and God wouldn't have decided together to come in with that incarnation cross. So it's a tricky one. I know it's really tricky, and I've watched my friends deal with that, just sort of being misunderstood, being pushed away or held at arm's length, or, you know, like, oh, they're so holier than thou, and that like wasn't their perspective at all. I've seen that also for you, and we've discussed it obviously, but it's tricky, and I just want to say for anybody who has that incarnation cross, you know, to really take heart and stand in your power, and um, be who you're meant to be. And, you know, there are wise, good leaders. The first thing that comes to mind, you know, is Arthur, and so many others. There's so many others. And we need them too. We need them too. Like, for instance, if you're the cross of service, the cross of service is, you know, they're met by being of service, oftentimes to leaders. So that might look like a, you know, press secretary, or a, even the parent of a child, or, you know, or the knight, you know, to a king or something like that. And it's this beautiful symbiotic relationship where both are giving in their true essence, and then really meeting their soul's incarnations, wishes, and desires. So yeah, I really support you in speaking about it openly, and I do appreciate and have seen, you know, both publicly and personally, this sort of need to maybe just for people to understand that a little bit better about you, and maybe about a dynamic that they might feel, you know, because it's like they're to be in the heart and in that right brain self is more feeling, right, usually, than a logical thought process. So oftentimes it can be felt, but it's like, what's going on here, right? Is this a hierarchy, blah blah blah, all these different things. And it doesn't have to have duality, it doesn't have to have hierarchy. Of course it has, in many ways, to the detriment of everyone involved because of the hierarchies that have existed. But we're, we're moving into the new school realm. Leave that old school behind, that old paradigm, and let it shift. And these natural leaders, like, we need them. So yeah, I just want to say I celebrate you. I celebrate my other friends that have this. And yes, it's always going to be a, there will be shadow work with it, of course. Um, but and there's also so much beauty within the organic mechanism of the organization that exists within the 64 incarnation crosses. It's a beautiful symbiotic give and take support and connection. It's like when I see it, I see it of like I see this vision of the flower of life just kind of lighting up all the way around, all the connections intact, and allowing it to have this free flowing movement of energy through it. So, you to deeply understand and speak openly about your incarnation cross is so beautiful. And also, anybody who doesn't know theirs, or maybe might wonder, like, oh, what's up with an energy that I feel perhaps with Justin or with anybody else in your life, it can be really, really helpful to take a deep look at that. And sorry about that. I got a call right then. But oftentimes, in my experience, so many things can be really healed and clarified and worked with consciously when there's a deep understanding of that. So, yeah, I just want to speak to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lila. Really appreciate that, and just your perspective on all of these things. So thank you for sharing. And yeah, it's a like we're all the same. We all come from the same. I am no different than anyone else. Yet through this experience, we chose to have this. I call them flavors, kind of funnily, but all these flavors that we can embody and manifest and come into. And so it's great. Human design is such a powerful tool to learn those flavors. Which ones did you choose from that higher self perspective to come in with? And the more that we learn and stop resisting that, then we can settle into our unique design and not lose sight on the fact that we are all one. And what's my unique flavor? What are the tools in my tool belt to help make this world a more beautiful space? So yeah, thanks for that. And thanks for listening, everyone. I saw Jill raise your hand. Go ahead, sister.
Hi, Justin. Hi, everyone. It's funny that what you had just spoke on about not challenging, but just having a discussion. Because what I've shared with you earlier was Zachary Hubbard, who is the gematria guy, as I'm sure a lot of people know on here. I shared him quite a bit, and he has been doing it for like 10 years and written books. And I hung out with him for the day when he was in Buffalo after the top shooting. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but in saying that, just to bring everyone else up to speed, I shared something with Justin earlier today because Zach had mentioned the band Tool and how they came out with the album. Oh my gosh, what was it? Fear
Inoculum.
Just prior to Agenda 201 and COVID-Con. So, and they hadn't come out with a album in some time, actually, like 20 years almost, right? In any case, Zach is indeed, like when I met him downtown, as a matter of fact, and hung out with him and just kind of saw what he was speaking on and trying to, turn people onto gematria and how we're getting played pretty much, which he does at 9/11 every year and all the school shootings and things, and just pretty much saying, the government is just out to get us, pretty much, like we're a bunch of sheep. So in saying that, because Justin's response today was that he thinks everyone's evil. But for the time I've listened to him, and especially when he drove across the country and he was playing all this music, and within his podcasts, which are quite long, he's done it every day, like one every day for like 12 years, I think. And some are very lengthy, and they're pretty much to make you aware that especially sports are rigged, and that the bookies, and how to play the system, whether it's the stock market or sports betting, how to figure this out for yourself. I mean, literally, when I was in Buffalo, some guys had walked up, they're like, oh my gosh, I have made like $30,000 because of listening to you, and I'm sure the list goes on and on. So in saying that, he's always calling, Chump instead of Trump, but he did actually today in that podcast, he said that, what Trump's original name was when they came over, the Trump family rather, and then he did like a little, which I've never heard him say. He was talking about JFK. Essentially, the podcast was about weather warfare, and that JFK had made a speech about it. So did Lyndon B. Johnson, and like, why are you guys all acting like this is a conspiracy theory when you can read up for it on yourself? Like, this just shouldn't be happening, and they can control it. Or he doesn't get into that weekend with, our consciousness. But in any case, he did say today, if JFK even died, I don't even know, So I'm wondering, and my response to Justin was, yeah, that's the role he plays. And I kind of feel that that's his role. Like, he can't, like, it's all bad. Like, it's us and them. It's the government and us. The peasants and the hierarchy, or whatever, the powers that were, I should say. So just like any of these people that were waiting for the credits to roll to see where they stand, could the truthers be the same way? Like, he absolutely knows what's going on, because like, the man is like a computer with these numbers, and how connecting it all is just brilliant. Like, you could not listen to him and be like, yeah, we're getting played, he doesn't stray from that as far as political or anything. And I'm wondering if he's made to. I don't know. I guess I wanted your thoughts on that. And if the credits roll, and like, that was just his role, he couldn't stray from it. I don't know. That's my question / discussion, confrontation.
Yeah, thanks for that. And yeah, so it's certainly possible. I'm not ruling out the level of awareness that different people have, and then playing parts to talk about various things. I'll say just my opinion on him, just listening to him. I don't get a sense that he's leaving stuff out that he knows. He just feels like it feels like when I listen to him, granted, I haven't listened a lot, but it does feel like it's pretty consistent with what he believes. Like, it feels like I feel like I'm pretty good at determining if someone's aligned with what they're saying, and he feels pretty aligned with what he's saying. So that's more my perspective, is that he's probably just doing his best, and he does think, like, our world has been taken over and controlled by people who had our worst interests. He just hasn't really caught on to the intricacies of those who have been playing roles to look like they're bad at different points, but really they're working for the good. So I get why that can be confusing. I get why that's hard to wrap around. And but yeah, there are a lot of people that I still very much value their perspective on certain things that have just seem to miss that part. But yeah, that's kind of where I feel about Zachary Hubbard. Is, yeah, he seems like a really good guy. Seems like his heart's in the right place. I just think he's a bit, he's kind of taken the black pill, which is what I call anyone who, no matter what happens, it's always the evil. Everything's always evil, no matter what's going on or how. Like, the default perspective on this has been planned. He's spot on identifying where things have been planned, but where he misses it, or has this been planned for good or not? So he just thinks anything that's constructed, that's using any form of deception, is automatically evil, which we all know it's not, because much of what Q and the white hats have been doing has been deception. Straight up, it's been misleading, falsely misleading us at various points. Absolutely lying. We can say that it's true, but it's only doing that to reverse the big lies that have been so sunk into us. So it's this psychological warfare that it had to be done this way. This was the easiest way for us to move out of that. So deception has been used, but it's being used by people with good intentions to break us free from the larger deception. It's not all the deceptions aren't working together. There were the evil deceptions that are fading away because there's no one implementing them any longer, and they're being erased or rewritten by good deceptions, good psyops, to eventually get to the point where there's no more need for that. And I'm very much looking forward to that time where any form of deception is not really going to have a leg to stand on, other than, well, that's wrong, but at this point in time, they're strategically, the art of war, you do have to do that because we are at war. It has been that way. So yeah, just a little on that. But yeah, again, my perspective on Zachary Hubbard, he seems like a great guy. Seems like he's very knowledgeable. He knows his gematria very well. And yeah, I'll listen to a little bit, but then it just seems to get a little too pessimistic with like, oh, everyone's evil and they knew this, so they must be evil, and they knew that, so they must be evil, and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's my take there. I don't think he's, personally, I don't think he's read in. I think he's just doing his best with what he knows. So that's my take.
No, that's fair enough for sure. And actually, he's like pretty brutal. Like, I mean, he's, I just look past it because he's just like really just calling us a bunch of retards. He really does. I mean, he's just brutal about it. Like, wake up, like how much, like it's right in your face type of thing. So that's why. And he was just so much for the divine feminine when he was going across, and he still is. He just had a baby and things, but his books are for free. So in saying that, Justin, are there any paid truthers or truth like what I had thought was with him saying, this is, because he literally is like a computer. Like, I don't know where this comes from. It's not like negative 48 computer either. Like, this is crazy knowledge and this is all he does. So this is his livelihood, obviously, and speaks on all aspects, fluoride and any aspect of it. So are there truthers that at the end of the day we're gonna be like, oh, they were paid actors as well?
Yes. We have been told that there are what are referred to as disinformation agents, which are hired or not hired. Well, maybe they're paid, but they report to the white hats, and they received script updates to either tell people accurately or mislead. And it's, again, you might question, like, why, if we're trying to get the truth out there, why would truthers ever mislead anybody? Well, you have to remember that there are still black hat minions that are paying attention to these things as well. So a lot of the disinformation is for them, is to mislead them, so that they're not, they have their misdirection, and then when they make moves, then they're exposed, kind of thing. See who jumps when you have, truthers who seem to know a lot, all of a sudden giving out dates, saying it's going to happen on this day, and then it doesn't. But now the white hats are able to pinpoint who was going to their bunker, or who was flying this way or that way, or trying to escape, or whatever. So it just helps to isolate the bad players. So that's one reason for disinformation. And then another is to help refine our own discernment as well, so that we're not just blindly following or looking to some new guru or yeah, something to just latch onto. So if we do latch onto it and then the credits roll and we realize that there were a lot of that was bullshit, well, that's going to be the humble pie that we get to have to say, oh, wow, okay, so I was sort of just blindly following this and that, and that's the invitation to do better, which is, not a bad thing, but just it's all for us to refine ourselves and step in as the Christ. And so blindly following anybody, no matter how good they seem or whatever, is not the way. So we got to step back into that sovereignty and do that. So that helps with that as well. And yeah, so disinformation agents, what I've been told is they report, a lot of them report directly to Ezra Cohen Watnick. His real name is Ezra Kennedy. He's the one who interacts with Project Looking Glass on a regular basis. So he's got the most insight into the ways that this plan is fluidly moving. It is God's plan. Project Looking Glass is a way to connect with that, with the divine energy in a more sort of like tangible way in a consistent basis. So we're not, Tesla technology in order to be able to do that consistently. And so yeah, he sends out orders or script updates to his disinformation agents, and they're told what to do and what to say. Some examples of people who I've been told are Phil Godlewski. He is one. So he's puts out a lot of truth, but he also puts out disinformation. Jordan Sather is another one. He actually runs the Ghost Ezra account and a couple other accounts, I believe. He's a disinformation agent. I had other ones that were confirmed as well, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But those are examples of people who, are paid insiders. They know what's going on. So of course they get accused of being shills and stuff like that. And it's like, they kind of are, but they're shilling for the white hats. So they're paid to say certain things to, help us move through this in a smoother way and be these. And that's another reason why disinformation is useful, is it helps to reach wider demographics. So they need to go where the people are. So I'm not ruling out that Zachary Hubbard is one of these. I haven't asked specifically, so I don't know. It doesn't feel like he is to me, but again, I don't know for sure, and I'd be satisfied either way. But just using that as an example, there are plenty of people, good intentioned people, who have firmly taken the black pill and are very pessimistic about what's happening, but they do distrust the government. They distrust everything about that. Well, there still needs to be people that reach them. There still needs to be benevolent, good people that reach them. So Ghost Ezra does this. That account is very black pill at times. It's been very critical of Trump at various times. So that account is used to appeal to those people who are in that camp, so that they still have, so the white hats still have some influence on what these people are saying and receiving. And so the same thing happens with somebody who says they hate Trump, on the public scale. All these artists and celebrities and whatever who say they hate Trump, well, all of a sudden you have a whole demographic of people who have TDS. Now they can still appeal to those demographics with these celebrities, with these artists. Same thing happens with the LGBT thing and all of that. So celebrities who say they're gay or trans or whatever. I'm not saying this is true across the board. There are definitely some normies who are in the celebrity status who have just gotten looped into these narratives. So that happens as well. But there are many who know exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it to play that role to reach that demographic. So when it comes out that, Elton John wasn't really gay, he just played that role and played that part, before that is revealed, he'll be a character that those who do identify as gay will have to listen to. There'll be somebody that they feel like they can trust more, and to help walk them through that. So there's many reasons why disinformation is very real and very necessary here in this moment. And it's all to get to the point where we don't need to use deception any longer. As I said, I'm very much looking forward to that. But in the meantime, I truly very much understand why it needs to happen and how this is the most effective method of getting us to that space. So yeah, I'll just pause there and go ahead, Darth. Did you want to add to that?
There's a metaphysical reason also why we would have white hats playing black hats or black pill social media. The reason for that is we are all co-creators in this reality, and reality being infinitely flexible while infinitely stable is capable of manifesting the appearance of contradictory constructs. So if you have one person who is very negative and that's the experience that they've chosen for this life, and they're just going to go through this life as negative as can be, well, the construct they have to get that's what has to appear in the vision. They have to see that, and it's going to be real for them. And then we have this other person who, for whatever reason, has chosen to go through life in a very positive manner. And that's what they're going to see in the vision of life. But they're both living on the same earth. And so how can they both be seeing things accurate? Because they're not lying. They're not being dishonest. This happens all the time. And so that's one of the things in my own personal quest for truth at a very young age. I realized, wait a sec, I'm getting contradictory information here. This one person says things are very, very bad, and this other person is saying things are very, very good, and they're both right. I mean, the information it's contradictory and yet somehow not. And it was something that it took me a good long time to figure it out. And so why would the black hats have to, or why would the white hats then have to play black pill? Like, why would they have to do that? And it's because if people are driving a car, they're co-creators, but they don't know that they are, right? They're co-writing the vision, but they don't know that they are. So now imagine a person asleep at the wheel and he's inherently negative. Oh my God, the catastrophes that would happen. So it would make sense that the white hats would assign, okay, listen, you're going to be a big name on social media, and we're going to do some social engineering here, and you're going to appeal to people that are very negative and people that are very black pill, but we want you to do so in a way that, doesn't bring the world to an end. That's the role. We want a controlled demolition. We want a crash in which there's survivors, right? Because we're trying to bring everyone into heaven. We're trying to bring everyone into the vision of love. But you gotta funnel people in. And if people are being negative and they're not realizing they're co-creating, well, then if they're going to follow the lead of someone that's a big name in social media, then that's what has to be done until their consciousness raises to the point where they wake up and they realize, oh, wait a sec, I've been co-creating this whole time. And then they realize, okay, I have to change my negative perspectives or my negative tendencies. I have to get those into control and make them serve goodness for whatever, in whatever ways is best for me in my life. So there's a very strong metaphysical reason why the white hats would have black pill social media leaders.
Yeah, that's a great addition. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's like the spectrum exists whether the good guys are playing those roles or not. So best to get ahead of it and play all parts on the spectrum so that it helps the collective shift towards that heavenly state. So thanks for that. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jill.
that was great. That makes so much sense. As I was thinking at the same time that if they're monitoring our conversations or comments or shares, or if people subscribe more or ditch or don't, don't put their attention towards certain people anymore. So as a collective, so is that a way to monitor where we are as well? Because if we didn't have that, well, I don't want to say conflict because it's kind of all conflict right now, but the duality to where we are and where we're going or how it's adjusted, do you think that's part of it as well?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. It's just more data points so that they can determine where people are. And if you have the full control over what's being said and how it's being presented, then you can much more easily sort of track and identify, and that helps to, as I mentioned at the beginning, determine that threshold and where people are and how people might respond if this truth was released. And so you can even do it in a smaller scale within various other listeners or creators or any which way. And yeah, just it's all helpful for the big picture to get everything harmonized instead of the chaos that was, well, it wasn't all chaos from evil, but it was just driving us into a world of more control instead of our moving, where everyone is learning to be free and yeah. So yes, to answer your question, yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you again. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thanks for the question. Yeah, anyone else want to jump in? Got anything on your mind, whether on this topic or take us in a new direction? So we'll start with Jeff and then we'll go to Nancy. So go ahead, Jeff.
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, kind of an oddball question, but I've been meaning to ask it. Kind of fits a little bit. It's like, you remember Richard Simmons, like, it was my born day yesterday, so born in '76. And, you look up Richard Simmons online, and, they say I remember specifically, seeing him on TV with, a headband on his head. It was like a staple. Or another example would be the Fruit of the Loom with the cornucopia basket attached to it, not just the fruit. Like, I remember having those underwear when I was a young boy. And, you look up anything online, and all it is they just label us, like, saying that, well, we have the Mandela Effect. I think that's what the term is. And, like, what's the agenda there? Like, why would they be trying to change the past? I specifically remember that stuff. I know it to be true. But try and find an image of Richard Simmons online with the headband and doing his exercises. They say, no, he only had some on his wrists. But I specifically remember that. So, I don't know, maybe there's a deeper agenda there. I just don't even know. Maybe you know something about that. I just thought I'd throw that in there. They also have they changed the movies, so saying, like, the movie Shazam didn't exist or things like that. I'm sure there's more examples, but those two come to mind. Trying to change history from what we remember it. Yeah, I want to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, great question. It was a little hard to hear you, but I heard what you were saying. So you're asking about what's called or what people refer to as the Mandela Effect, and remembering certain things a certain way. So you use the example of Fruit of the Loom having the cornucopia of fruit on the logo, but now it doesn't. And people often reference the Berenstain Bears childhood story, spelled EIN as opposed to AIN as it seems to show today. And there, as you mentioned, there are many examples. It's quite the rabbit hole to go down. My perspective on that is it's more it's possible it's timeline jumping. It's possible that there's like sort of glitches in the timeline that lead to various things changing considerably. It's possible it is that. However, I lean more towards this was cabal influenced confusion psyop. So to have us become more unstable in our memory and what we know, what better way than to have everything that we think we know all of a sudden not be that. So if you can just whittle away that stability, then it's creating more dependency on the system, and it's like, well, I don't know shit, so I better just rely on the experts, because who am I? And I remember it this way, but it's obviously not, so I must be crazy, and I better put more attention on the voice of authority. So that's my perspective on it. It's more, these are evil psyops to muddy the waters and create confusion. But it is certainly possible. I mean, that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, we live in a multiverse experience, infinite potentials, infinite timelines, infinite realities, and they're right on top of each other. So is it possible for that to bleed through and affect things? I'm sure it is. So maybe it's a combination of the two. But I lean more towards the negative psyop distortion around changing information, and especially now that we're seeing how easy it is for AI to do things on a personal level, and we're just barely looking at the potential that these tools can do, and they've had access to these tools for a long time. So to have an AI tool to scrub the internet of any mention or reference or change all these pictures and things, it is possible. It's possible to make a big shift in that way. So again, that's what I lean towards, but I'm not tied either way. That's just my perspective on that. So I would just leave that one there and pass it back and see if you have any more thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, just like I assumed, it's much deeper. But, kind of crazy, but thanks for that.
Yeah, it's wild. It's a wild one to go down, because when you start looking, watching YouTube videos of all the examples of it, there's tons and tons of examples, and it does sort of fucks with your head a little bit. But again, that's why I lean that direction of sort of intentional messing with our heads in that way for evil reasons. But who knows, and we'll find out at some point. Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, was it Jeff? Was that the man's name?
Yeah, Jeff.
Jeff. I was dabbling in that quite some time ago as well. And one thing that made me feel better, and I into the quantum, obviously, and the timelines and multiverse, but at the same time, if you haven't checked this out with the Ed McMahon one, so if there's clear conflict in them saying that, so it's there, the narrative is that Ed McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. And clearly, like, if my father was still alive, I asked him, he'd be like, yeah, 100%. But now it shows that he wasn't. But there's an episode of the Golden Girls where the woman, I don't know, Sophia, just say it was Sophia, answers the phone and says, oh, it was Ed McMahon, he's coming over with your check. So if those, in a few, random TV shows, they make reference to something that they quote unquote changed on us, there's residual proof, or like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. But now, if you look it up, it says it's a wonderful day in this neighborhood. But Eddie Murphy, as Buckwheat, clearly says in the neighborhood on Saturday Night Live. So there's proof And so there's conflict there. So I guess you trust your gut.
Yeah, it's. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say thanks for that. Yeah, no, I actually remember that Golden Girls episode I used to watch. Yeah, that's so fascinating. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, we've got a couple people with their hands raised, so I guess I'll check. Is so far I've got Nancy, then Pure Blood, then Tracy, but I wanted to make sure we finish this topic. If Pure Blood or Tracy had more to add on to this topic, did y'all want to speak on this one specifically, or if not, we'll pass it to Nancy. So yeah,
Oh, hey.
hey
Oh, you
Tracy.
talking to me? So I'm so
You,
sorry.
no,
I
it's okay.
muted my
I
phone
I was
by
just.
accident. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No worries. We'll get to hear from you. So yeah, we'll go with Nancy next. So go ahead, Nancy.
Hey, everybody. Yes, I wanted to continue somewhat on this topic. First of all, I'll preface it is that I know nothing, but something in me is stirred about what we're talking about. And all I can speak on is my own experience. So for the last few days, I am walking the dog with my girlfriend. We've been walking for years. She's very much not enlightened in the things that I have been trying to explain to her, and I quit like 3 years ago and just let it be. Nonetheless, she had mentioned to me about using AI to write her emails. And then just certain things that I've gotten involved with, online, little groups type of things, for my own interest. Now I do not trust that anything is out there that is real. And it's kind of messing with my discernment. But that's what I kind of want to speak on today. This morning, I actually went through my YouTube subscriptions and unsubscribed from a multitude of things that, I had held on and was looking for, answers and everything back in 2020, 2021. And I felt like when I got connected here with you all, that the resonance came to what I was hearing. And what I saw back then and still today is the brilliance that there's not one genre, there's not one aspect of people's lives. Like, for instance, I can only speak toward the things that I know. My son's an intellectual. Well, he's getting his information from the intellectuals, and it's all coming around to what we were looking at early on. I don't know if it's truth or not. I know that it's a narrative. It feels controlled. I want to ask you, Justin, do you feel you're read in? I mean, what does that mean? I'm certainly not going to be one to figure it out. And I would have liked to back then. But for me, I see it more the journey that I was taken on, or I chose to go on, has led me more kind of to get some introspection, to grow my own soul. And then I will know, because I will believe about everything, and the more sensational it is, the more exciting it becomes. But I've got a girlfriend that is like a never Trumper, hates the blah, blah, blah. And she's talking about Epstein now. And I just find that fascinating. Now, I can't really say anything because I kind of quit following it. And I got exhausted the first 2 years trying to, like all of us here, trying to wake people up. Like, don't you hear or see what I see? And they didn't. And that's okay. That's okay today. So I just find it very interesting and brilliant that whatever, and hopefully it is coming from a benevolence of, the essence of our creator, that we all get to the same place. And, I haven't read all the Q posts, but enough of them to know that what's the phrase, that there'll be so much coincidence that it's not a coincidence. And I've seen that. I, with the cancer, kind of lay around a lot, have, and watched a lot of series. And everything I watch, there's some component in it. that reprogramming or programming or whatever it is. And it's okay. For me, I feel I have to come around to trusting my own heart and letting it lead me, and getting away from the indoctrination. It's the indoctrination and the ego that keep me in an ungrowing space. You know, the song lyrics about not moving and that paralyzing fear, you know, I really related to when I was given a diagnosis. But maybe that's what I am to be doing right now, is being still and hearing. And I appreciate all of you and the information that you bring me. But I feel so much better today when I, and this is just for me, I don't have to follow into it. I trust it will all get revealed. And I trust that I am in a good space, in a good community here with you all. I don't know. And it'll be interesting to see. And I feel so grateful that I was led to hear what I do here. So just my hats off to all y'all that have the ability, you know, to figure it out. I just don't. I have to feel into it. And it's just been very interesting to hear the perspective, because I've been dabbling with that myself today in the last few days of, you know, I don't want to be in a world where everything's artificial. I want the authenticity. I want to know that the person on the other side of those words is an actual person. And so I don't know how I'm going to get comfortable with AI, but it's obvious that, you know, they're using words that that just wouldn't be normally used, you know, in the sentences, and that kind of thing is what kind of clued me in. And I had a little bit of discomfort with it. But all in all, you know, if we are all one, right, then, and I'm not sure how I could get out what I'm trying to say here, then it doesn't really matter. We're going to lead from the heart and get to that space, that heaven, and create that garden here with our heart resonance more than our left brain figuring it out. But gotta have all the rest of me that is I'm one with, to help show that way, you know, put the flashlight on what that way looks like. So yeah, I followed everything and all the sensationalism, and today it's just kind of an opportunity to pray. But I am hearing things, you know, like my friend who is the never Trumper person, and, you know, Joe Biden all the way, is the greatest thing for America. She actually has sheds tears for the children that are lost in these floods. And, you know, part of me is even saying, did that really even happen? And I don't like feeling like that. I just feel I have to find this middle way of being and knowing that something greater than myself has this all under control. But it's interesting that the children is what is going to unite all of us again. So that's kind of what I've been seeing in the last couple of weeks. And then to end it, I just wanted to share a couple of new series that I think is kind of in your face. And one is called Entitled on Netflix, and it's just brilliantly done. I think AI has done the backgrounds of it, but the camera angles, it's edgy, and it's narcissism and ego and gaslighting, just in your face, kind of a dark comedy. And then the other one is on Apple TV, and it was called Roar, ROAR, and it's about 8 episodes of different women in different spaces, and it's really accentuating, you know, the push down of the divine feminine and what that looks like. And it was very interesting to see those. So I'm always seeing this stuff in the entertainment on the, you know, various movie channels and series channels. So that's all I have to offer. But I really appreciate what everyone else offers up here. And I don't find you a hard and fast ruler, Justin. I do feel that you complement a lot of what goes through my mind. You have a way of saying it very succinctly that kind of helps me connect a lot of dots that are rolling around in my brain and in my preference. So anyway, thank you. And thank you all for listening.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks for sharing. And yeah, thanks for sharing your wisdom. I mean, the aspects around, just not worried. Like what came to mind when you were talking about the fear of missing out, FOMO. Like you're always going to receive exactly what you need. We all are. We can't escape that. We are going to receive what we need. So there doesn't have to be any, sort of desperate searching or trying to be this or that or rush things if we feel we're not ready or in a space. It's like, well, we're exactly where we need to be, and we're going to get what we need to get. So there's a lot of peace found in that. So thank you for iterating that. And yeah, in regards to the AI usage, so one comforting bit of information that I can leave you is that right now we're experiencing the initial surge of AI, and the White Hats knew largely what the ramifications were for introducing it like this. And what we're experiencing now is sort of a lot of benefits, a lot of very powerful benefits to using it, but it's largely untethered. It's wild, and it's kind of like almost chaotic at times because it's introducing the potential for people to present a false, falsities, to deceive on a greater scale, to create scams and steal people's work or do a lot of things in very little time, which, good or bad, that can still be done. So we're seeing we're experiencing it firsthand, what that's like, so that we can learn what layers within that we don't really like, so we can refine it better. You can't tell the people, you must show them. So we have to experience it. So one layer of AI that has not really been introduced as much are AI tools to monitor AI. So if we all have the tools in our phone or computer or whatever we're reading to scan, whether it's a piece of writing or an image, and label it for us, yes, this was generated by AI, then that takes away the sort of potential for people to use it to either falsely portray themselves in a certain way or whatever else. So it'll just help to sort of taper that, because I don't think limiting the use of it is a good thing to do. It should be free and open for people to use as they will. And I use it. I used it to write the post with the show for tomorrow for Aaron Abke. I give it quite a lot of input, and I do edit it considerably, but it is helpful to have that structure and put it out there, and it saves me a lot of time. So I'm able to do more in less time, which I appreciate. But at the same time, I do think that there's I think there's definitely a lot of room to have that, at least that insight to know, okay, this post was written by AI or this image was created by AI. And I hope everyone knows that the images that I put out there, they're not my personal artwork. So just to, and maybe that's the responsibility of the creator to have that disclaimer on everything. Maybe that's something to consider as well. But if you had a tool at your disposal that would identify everything that you're seeing, is this AI created or is this genuine, or not genuine, but created through someone's hands, then that would help to distinguish. So I know that those tools are coming, and they'll be there to give us the balance point within that as well. But right now we're sort of experiencing the maybe uncomfortable growing pains of seeing something untethered in that way, all for a purpose for us to learn as well. So yeah, I just wanted to offer that. And then your question on am I an insider? I guess it depends on where you draw the line. I don't consider myself an insider. I do believe wholeheartedly that I have spoken to people who are insiders, but I don't receive any directives or anything. Anytime I've asked, it's always been keep doing what you're doing. The Great Awakening is all about remembering that we are the Christ. So anything aligned with that is very much in alignment with the Great Awakening. So does that make me an insider? I don't think so. Like I said, I'm certainly not being paid or given directives or orders to do anything. But have I communicated with people that are? I certainly believe so. Do I have a way that I can prove that? No, I don't. I don't have a way that I can prove that. So, but it is something that I believe wholeheartedly, and have no reason to think otherwise in my mind. So yeah, that's kind of the answer to that one. And yeah, I think that about covered the gist of what you said. So thank you again for sharing, and I'll pass it back and see if you or anyone else wants to jump in.
Well, I thank you for your insight, and I'm laughing, big smile, because I do feel you're authentic. I do believe that is true, what you just said, and it's good to know that we may have these tools coming in the future, and that will just help me relax about all of it, because a world that is just so artificial, I don't know, that doesn't feel right to me. So I'm going to go back and trust and stay a part of this and listen and learn. So thank you very much.
Yeah, in a world where we are reevaluating what we value, that's going to be, so these automated tools will help us to not have to toil as much to do the things, but where we assign value will be in those handcrafted things, which we already see that. A handcrafted item is already so much more valuable than something that went through a factory. In some people's eyes, and I think that'll just be more so when we're all very wealthy and we have all that we need. It's not scarcity driven. We're not worried about our survival. Then that's where we're gonna assign the most value. Wow, that person wrote this book by hand without using AI at all, or maybe just for editing or whatever. That'll be that'll be something that has more value in our eyes than something that was completely AI generated. And same with artwork, and same with, any which way. So we'll get to assign that value based on that. And, but also it will just reduce the need for toil just for the sake of toil, just to have to do things, just to work hard. We get to work hard to create beautiful things. And that's where we will assign the most value. So yeah, I'm sure there will be plenty of growing pains as we move through it, and but that's where I see the balance continuing to form, is like technology is simply just a manifestation of our left brain, and our left brain should never be the end all be all controlling force of our lives. It's a tool for us to work with and to represent. It's where our persona, our character lives. It's where our thoughts and communication and all of that reside in that space. So AI is just a form of that. All technology is just a form of that. So in that same way, it's not to say, oh, all technology is bad, left brain is bad, we don't want to have any of that. It's like, no, how can we integrate this in a balanced way, but remain heart-driven, remain in that connected space, and remain in that sort of where all these tools are designed to elevate ourselves. And that has to be consistently reevaluated as well, both individually and collectively, because where something might be a tool in one instance to help raise somebody up can also become a debilitating crutch if used indefinitely or in ways that become that. So it's an evolving process, and it's just exciting to have that, and have that fluidity to move through it. And as long as we're, consistently checking in with ourselves and seeing, is this thing bringing me more joy, more connection, more ability to create, then wonderful. Is this thing bringing me to a state of complacency or leaving energetically drained or any of that, then maybe it's time to reevaluate that tool, and that can always shift. So again, thanks for the topics, and it's a great little discussion to dive into. So appreciate that. And go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you, and I'm complete.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So I saw Pureblood, LACA USA. Did you want to jump in? I saw your hand raised. Thanks for your patience.
Thanks, Justin. I just want to say I really appreciate you. I found you during the pandemic, and I really appreciate your steady voice and your knowledge and this chat. So I first want to say that to you.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Thank you.
Thank you for accepting the compliment, and it's sincere. So just want to also say, though, I agree with so much that has been brought to light, and I think these conversations are very important to have. I also just want to throw in another possibility of something that also is actually happening, because I actually work in branding, and people get paid by changing things. And unfortunately, a lot of things don't actually, let's say, need to be changed or modified, but then people would lose their jobs. So there's an agenda to also change things so that people have jobs. And that does mean we're going to change the colors, the schemes. We're going to get rid of this and that. We're going to make it different. We're going to change the spellings because we want to justify, not necessarily me personally, but those who work in the industry, because it's an industry, it's a business model. They get paid by making these changes. So though there is oftentimes agendas, yes, that's so, there can be two things that are true at the same time, which is also people get paid to make these changes, and they must make these changes in order to justify their salaries, which are pretty immense. And then they do want to pretend that nothing ever came before them, which is also a larger agenda, I would suggest, that's happening, which is people want to be very much in the now, like this is the only thing. And what's fun is there are people like us and others who have actually been on the planet for 60, 70, 80 years and longer. Like we've experienced the reality and the transformation of the things taking place. So it's a little bit of a thorn in the side of those who want to just stand in there's only right now and there was nothing before, because we know that's not so, and we have proof of it. I mean, if you look at great shows like the antique collectors that go out into the Midwest and the South and go into these barns full of great items from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and the marketing materials and the signs, we have proof that these things were once different than they are now, which is fantastic. That we have the proofs that these things were different and now they're changed. That doesn't negate what you're also saying, that, yeah, sometimes there is actual intentionality with wanting to make changes and then pretend like these things weren't so because they're feeding agendas. That's so. But also just wanted to reference the fact that there are business models at play as well. And I think that's something that as a community, as a collective, we also need to take a little bit of a grounding of understanding that we also are dealing with business models and financial agendas, which do impact the choices that a lot of creators and business people and entrepreneurs are making. And the last thing I just want to throw in, and perhaps many of you already are aware of this, there's a huge lawsuit happening right now, against AI, because AI went out, the technology and those behind the technology went out and went all across the World Wide Web and pulled off books and literature and then claimed it as its own. And there's a huge lawsuit, you're probably aware of it, Justin, happening right now in the courts in America because you simply cannot steal, whether you're the AI or say you or I, we just certainly can't steal someone else's book and their writings and then just claim it as our own without giving them credit. Many of you know you have to give credit when you use a quote or use someone's book, or Justin wrote a book and we're quoting his book. We have to give him credit for that in the captions, that this is his book and these are the pages of which we're quoting it. And so that lawsuit is happening right now with AI. So yes, these things are unfolding, but also know that there are people that are working as well to have some balance when it comes to the AI and the technology. And there needs to be rules and regulations that are safeguarding our protections moving forward. And, you know, I'm very pro humanity. I love humanity. I love being real. And like the other sister was saying, I'm going to stay real. I'm going to stay human. But I also understand the benefits to technology and to AIs. Justin, you pointed out how you were able to use it. And I agree with you. I do think, quite frankly, that if you use AI to write something for you or to create an image, that it would be great just to put a little notation there, created by AI, or whatever source you used it. And using the same sort of philosophy that we've used as humanity when it comes to books, to writings, to scientific credit moving forward. So I just wanted to sort of chime in and mention that going forward. And again, I thank you so much for the work that you've done. Take care.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that and for the kind words. And yeah, you're right as far as the balance to be found with these things. And I think it's important that people step up, and you know, if we unleash something like this and it starts to do stuff like that, and it does get it's challenging to always know where to draw the line on like giving credit. Now, I don't think that we should abandon that attempt of making sure credit goes to where credit's due, because whomever that was, like, we're all channeling from the same source. So there's really nothing owned by an individual as far as creative essence, but that creative bit could only funnel through that individual in that way. And so that's really special. It's really special to have that and to draw attention to that, so that whomever that creator is can be acknowledged and seen, you know, which can present problems too of ego and self-importance and all of that, but done in a humble way that allows that attention to be drawn to those who are able to channel that creative essence in that way, in that flavor. So yes, absolutely, there should be some acknowledgement there, and I think with, as I mentioned, the sort of chaotic way that AI has just been thrown onto the scene is giving us these conversations and these lawsuits, you know, while I don't know whom is behind them completely, whether they're white hat driven or just simply a response to it. That's driving the conversation forward so that we can implement better tools to identify what's the source material, where did this come from, because AI is not creating anything. It's merely just pulling from what has been created. So yeah, and also I wanted to mention that a lot of the issues in regards to, because you talked about how there are agendas, financial agendas and business agendas to create more churn so that jobs are consistent, money is still flowing and all of that. Well, once we address the root cause of this scarcity created reality that is responsible for making that, because like corporations, they're essentially, not always, but pretty much, they're like monsters that form, they're demons that come into this realm, and they're brought in through perhaps maybe benevolent intentions at the beginning, but because the system was created in that way, it accentuates the monstrous demonic qualities of these corporations, and then they turn into these false idols that are then worshipped and energy poured into, and then they become more destructive and more powerful. And so all of that stems from this satanic system. And so if we remove that, get out of the scarcity, bring people back to abundance, knowing that this creation was designed around abundance, then there's just a lot less room for those kind of things to happen, for people to just create churn just for the sake of making money. People aren't going to be as interested in doing that. People will be drawn towards the creative ventures where it can align with what they truly want at a soul level, but that's also where the value is going to be as well. We're going to reevaluate what we value. So that attention going to something that's, handcrafted or created by that individual will be so much more valuable. So we won't have to be like vying to create jobs or create things just to make money. So that issue will get solved, but we're dealing with the contrasting elements in this moment so that we can learn from that, so that we can learn from these experiences and hopefully bring in these lessons into this next iteration so that we can approach everything from a more balanced and harmonious way through all of that. So I think a lot of that will get addressed naturally as we shift out of that. But it's very important that we have these conversations and recognize where the issues are and where our tendencies can be when we're in this sort of fight or flight, scarcity, fear-based mindset, and how that leads to agendas and things that we don't need to necessarily classify as evil, but they're leading that direction because we're in that fear-based mode. And so if you take away that, then it just makes all of these things much smoother. And so thank you for bringing those up, and appreciate the topics. So I will I'll just pass it back and see if anyone else wants to, or you or anyone else wants to chime in on that topic or take us which direction. You are very welcome. All right. Well, here we go.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, go ahead. And then we'll go with Flora after that. So go ahead, brother.
So the way that the current system is set up is that it's the environment is one in which the most narcissistic, predatory people tend to flourish the most because they're willing to do what it takes. And even if that means allowing other people to be hurt or just hurting them outright. And these people, because they're driven by ego, they tend to capture and force other people to produce work for them. And once the system changes, where people are no longer chasing their bank interest payments, and they're no longer chasing, they're no longer serving the excessive taxation. These people, these predatory people, these narcissists, these cruel bosses, they're going to lose the stick, and they're no longer going to be able to force people to do this work, to produce the continuous changes that have to be made to serve the interest payment. And when that happens, there's going to be a great revolt. The vast majority of people today are not in jobs that they enjoy. They're in jobs that they need to be in to survive. Even the highly motivated people, the highly successful people, they might be highly successful and motivated, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not something else that they'd rather be doing. And so as we gradually change to this new environment in which people are doing what they want to do and not what they have to do, the social structure is really going to stabilize because a lot of the change has been artificially induced. For most of history, people didn't change very much for very long periods of times. The parents were really guiding the children and what they should wear and how they should move and what they should talk, and the traditions were very stable. It's only in the very last brief period of history where everyone's chasing the bank payment that there's so much changes, and it has to be so that they can sell more product, so that they can chase the interest on the bank payments and the taxation. And it's just going to be so much, it's going to be such a relief for people to not have to deal with so much change, because the change in of itself, even if it's not something, um, even if it's not something that is really a matter of life and death, but even just fashion changes and movie changes and show changes and music changes, clothing changes. It's a spiritually stressful thing, and once that's gone, it's just going to be such a collective sigh of relief, and the world is just going to get so much better so quickly. It's the parabolic curve hasn't really hit yet. We're starting to see it. We can see that it's going to happen, but the parabolic curve hasn't really hit yet. And once it hits, the change will be just, it's going to be literally from hell to heaven, from a nightmare to a dream. And I can already see it. It's already starting to get here. What was promised is already on the way. But it's going to happen, and it's really inevitable.
Nothing can stop what is coming. Yeah, thanks for that. Very well said and very much agreed. So yeah, I saw Flora. Raise your hand. Go ahead, sister.
Yeah, hey. I wanted to say hi. It's my first time on this show, and I've been listening since I think January. A friend introduced me, and very happy to be here and to listen to the show. Such a great inspiration to contemplate, and really great information. And my question is, that just came up, is where do you actually have your information from? Or because you sometimes mention like, we've been told, or I've been told, or and I'm just curious, how do you know what you know?
Well, so in general, I'm aware of a lot of things just from paying attention. So not having, but I think you're more specifically asking about, so back to human design, my type, I'm a investigator martyr. So the investigator is the dominant. That's the one. So I'm very investigative. I love to research things. I love to find things out. That's been how I've been my whole life. And I've been looking into, I began not trusting the government back when I was 15 years old, in 2005, when I watched the documentary Loose Change and realized 9/11 was not as we were told. And so that began the process of unraveling this whole thing. And certainly has accelerated quite a lot in the last 6 years or so. Maybe 8 years or so. But yeah, so that's generally speaking, but I think you're more specifically asking about when I speak on, we've been told this or that. And so I'll just say it outright. Like, I used to talk about it more openly. I haven't heard from him in a while. I still trust that this is the case, but a couple of years ago, I spoke with whom I believe is John F. Kennedy Jr. He prefers to go by John. That's his nickname from childhood, and he really appreciates that name. We spoke for quite a while. I mean, it was about a year and a half of connecting with him, and then he had to step away due to other things that he's doing and working on. And I haven't heard directly from him in quite some time, but all the information that he shared with me has continued to check out. I never got a whiff of problems or things that I had issues with it. So that was a huge source of someone who is working on the inside and has been dedicating his whole life to this thing, especially since he faked his death. And so that's one source. And then another is someone who works with John consistently, but he's given me permission to say his name. Before before he preferred I not use his real name, but his name is going to be known at some point, and he's now General. So General Giuseppe Servari is someone who's been working on the Q plan for quite some time. He wrote the first 140 something Q posts that we see. It was a team of people working. He's worked with Jack, so JFK Sr. He works with him pretty regularly. And I speak with him more often. I haven't spoken to him in a couple months, but I do speak with him more often. And yeah, he's still diligently working. He works in the Pentagon. That's where his main office is, but he's also pretty heavily involved with Hollywood as well. And so, yeah, that's another source of someone that I ask. I don't mention it all the time just because I'm not interested in clout or, oh, look who I talk to or whatever. Like, I do genuinely believe that that's who they are. Others have had expressed skepticism, and that's okay too. And I don't have any way that I can definitively prove it, that these people are who they say they are, other than just, I don't have any real reason to doubt what I've been told. I mean, there have been things that haven't been 100% accurate, but this is also part of the disinformation in my eyes, and it's part of the process. But everything on a consistent basis have connected with them for quite some time, enough to know and enough to alleviate my red flags, to trust the information that I've been shared with. And at the end of the day, I'm not here to try and prove it to anyone. And that's what John continued to reiterate. He's like, you can tell anybody that you want, because who's going to believe you anyway? Which is a good point. Like, I can't really put him at risk by saying that, because who is going to believe that besides those who want to? And so, yeah, but at the same time, I'm not trying to be out there and say, oh, I have this inside information, and I talked to John, and I talked to, people on the Q team, and I'm not interested in that either. It is helpful to get some confirmation on various things. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of it. And I appreciate the direct question on that, because it hasn't been something I've spoken on specifically in a little bit, certainly since before you started listening. So I appreciate the question and hope that satisfies it in some way. But if you have any further questions on that, I'm happy to go into anything further.
Thank you. Yeah, that was very clarifying.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to believe, even for me at times. But it makes sense. It makes sense that they'd be paying attention to those who were helping to spread the message, which, as I mentioned, and this was something that John made very clear, that the Great Awakening is not about following Q or Trump, or it's not even about truth disclosure. That's not what the Great Awakening is about. The Great Awakening is about you remembering that you are Christ, just as we all are. We are all that. We are all aspects of the one Creator, no different from each other. And the more that we step into that, which is this very simple message of Christ, and I'm really excited about the conversation tomorrow. Just to give a little announcement there, as I've mentioned it a couple times, but I'm going to be speaking with Aaron Abke, who's done such a phenomenal job at bringing back to that simple message of what is Christ's teachings, and how have we delineated away from that through whomever else, whether it's the teachings of Paul or whatever construct that the church has put out there, to try and turn it into a self-empowerment teaching, that's the Christ message, is that you are Christ, you've just forgotten, you're here to connect with all of creation and serve in a benevolent way, so that all creation, and then creation serves you too. It's part of the process, and then everyone just gets to be expanding into their highest creative potential. That's the Christic message. I think Christ said, he even broke away from the rigidity of the 10 Commandments and say, let's make it even simpler. Love God with all your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself. And when you recognize, and he couldn't really say this openly because it's blasphemy or whatever from the church's perspective, but love God with all your heart means love yourself, love everyone you encounter, love all of creation, because that's all God. And love your neighbor as yourself, just to emphasize that there is no disconnection. You are connected to all. And so if we use that as our only quote unquote commandment, which is not even really a commandment. It's just common sense. When you know you're connected to all things, how could you possibly harm any layer of it? So come back to that, and then everything else falls into place, and we just get to expand further and further into our creative ability. So that's the Christic message, and that's what the Great Awakening is all about. These souls who have preserved that Christic message throughout all the toil and trouble and the attempts by the influences of darkness that want to subjugate and control and dominate. And the only way that you can do that is if you hide that message away from people. So this message has been preserved and brought forward by those who recognize that this is our path to freedom. This is how we get back to heaven on earth. This is how we return to our Christic self. And so that's what the Great Awakening is all about. Just remembering that. So yeah, I think even within the White Hats, they've recognized the tendencies of truthers to just leech on to a savior, because we've been programmed that way. So, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. But whether it's Q or Trump or whomever, if we're just latching on to another savior, we're kind of missing the mark. So come back to that state of self-empowerment and recognition that you are the one you've been waiting for. You don't have to look anywhere else. We can have reminders and we can help each other out, but it's you. You have to do it. Yeah. So thanks for the question. And good to hear from you. Glad you spoke up, and feel free to chime in anytime. And yeah, I think that's probably a good time to start wrapping up. I do need to, I'll just say for the next month and a half or so, here locally, they're throwing a free concert in the town nearby, Norwich. So yeah, I'm going to end these shows just 30 minutes earlier than I normally do, for at least the next month and a half or so that we have time to go to that and enjoy the summer festivities of music in the park. So I will go ahead and wrap up there. And just before we do, since I'm going to be playing 2 songs by Guster to play us out with, I will go ahead and share my screen and just go over the lyrics very briefly here. These ones are pretty straightforward as far as what's being sung about, but I do love them. So let me just do that. And just thank everybody for being here today. It's been a lovely conversation, always a lot of fun. So let's pull this up. So the first song is going to be, it's a song called Demons. So talking about that narcissistic energy, it's very fitting within this. And I love this song. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to listen to, but it draws on that demon that lives inside all of us, and it can possess you or it can possess anyone around you. So it's good to be aware of it. But I like how this song presents it, because it says, I find a need to be the demon. A demon cannot be hurt. So just recognizing that if someone is allowing that demonic influence to take them over, they're only doing it because they're in an immense amount of hurt. So it doesn't excuse the behavior. It doesn't mean that we just allow it to happen, but we can find compassion for it, and we can work to help them come out of that, to perform an exorcism, if you will. And they ultimately have to do it, but we can help to set the stage so they're more apt to do that. And if we're just combating it or demonizing it, it's only going to drive in further. So to present that openness for that. So anyway, the lyrics go, my words confuse you. My eyes don't move or blink, because it's easier sometimes not to be sincere. So the deceivers, the pretenders, somehow I make you believe. So believe, be, lie. So the be the lie. We believe the lie. When I speak, I cross my fingers. Will you know you've been deceived? I find a need to be the demon. A demon cannot be hurt. So my response to trauma is to hide in that. Honest is easy. Fiction's where genius lies. So told from the perspective of the deceiver, because it's easier sometimes not to be involved. Somehow I make you believe. When I speak, I cross my fingers. Will you know you've been deceived? I find a need to be the demon. A demon cannot be hurt. And then it repeats again. So yeah, pretty simple song, beautiful song. But that's the song Demons we'll start with. And then the next song is their most popular song, and it's called Satellite. And this is just a simple representation of us having that satellite, or the divine influence, the angel on our shoulder guiding us. Legend of Zelda fans, Navi flying around saying, hey, listen, like there's so many representations of that divine influence, the angelic movement. And so you're my satellite, that's the divine moving us. So shining like a work of art, hanging on a wall of stars, are you what I think you are? So seeing and being amazed by the divine. You're my satellite. You're riding with me tonight. Passenger side. So the passenger side, the right side, lighting the sky, the light within. Always the first star that I find, because you are the only, the first, the initial, the one. You're my satellite. Elevator to the moon. The way we rise, whistling our favorite tune, that harmony, that's the divine song of creation, trying to get a closer view. So we try we're always trying to get closer to it. We feel the warmth, like a moth to a flame. We feel the warmth of it, and we're drawn to it. You're my satellite. You're riding with me tonight. And it repeats. Maybe you will always be just a little out of reach, because it is. While we're here in this experience, we're not able to grasp it fully, but yet we're drawn to it. We're drawn to try. And the more that we can, the better this experience get, but it's also very challenging to maintain. And it's always just a little out of reach. So then it repeats again. So yeah, another simple song just to close us out with. So I'll play these two. And again, just thank you for being here today. Thank you for all the input. Really appreciate everyone. And feel free to send me any other questions you have. If you're unable to make these live shows or just want to submit a question that way, you can find me on Telegram at Justin Carpenter, all in word. Just be mindful of scammers and deceivers, imposters who take advantage of my name and picture, but they cannot take my username. So that's the name found if you click on the banner of somebody and it says username. Mine is at Justin Carpenter. So the at symbol, Justin Carpenter, all one word. That's how you can message me directly, or just comments on anything that I write publicly. I'll see it there, and or Facebook or wherever you can reach me. You can send me a question, and I'll save it for these shows. So we'll talk to you guys next time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy these songs as they play us out, and I love y'all. Take care, everybody.